her moon, corrupted, with each asteroid feeding a relentless simmering hatred. Love, compassion, she doesn't have the heart for it. Every grudge, every dark impulse written in the stars. This is Lizzie Borden, her haunted astrology chart, and the darkness within her soul.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm going to be breaking down Lizzie Borden's natal chart. And if you think you know dark, wait until you see this, because she was completely unhinged. Her moon in Leo conjuncts Maniac and Haas. And this is like a toxic emotional cauldron. She needs to be seen and validated. But when she isn't, or when she perceives betrayal, that emotional fire here, it doesn't just flicker, it boils into resentment and simmering rage, because Hass is the German word for hate. And Maniac conjuncting her moon, her emotions aren't just intense, they're unhinged, erratic, and volatile. So already out of the gate, there is a lot of toxicity going on in her natal chart, and it just keeps getting more diabolical. Her moon and Haas squares her Pluto in the 8th house, and the 8th house rules death. The square here, it turns her simmering hatred into a restless, pressured energy, looking for any way out. And Pluto gives it depth and darkness and eventual release or transformation. Pluto rules the underworld and is actually at home in the 8th house. So to make matters worse, her Jupiter conjuncts her moon. So it enlarges this. It enlarges this energy into a full-blown explosion. It's like pouring gasoline onto fire, because I've said many times before, Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system, so it magnifies whatever it touches. Now, her Sun and Venus in Cancer are tightly conjuncting the asteroid Nessus, and that has to do with abuse. So when her Nessus is conjuncting her Sun and Venus at 0 degrees, this is the tightest orb. So this means that her sense of self and the way that she loves, if that's what you want to call it, it's been corrupted by Nessus. She was an abusive person. So the moon rules Cancer, and this validates the dynamic, especially through its conjunction with Haas. It shows that her emotional world is deeply tied to resentment and grudges and simmering anger. Now, she has this haunted prophecy, and it's written right into her chart, because her Lachesis conjuncts her moon. And the moon is the symbol of the mother in a natal chart, and your emotional well-being, and the way it's your emotional core. So Lachesis conjuncting her moon, this means that it's chained to death and endings, and Lachesis is a death marker. And here it aligns with the mother figure. So in her life, in Lizzie Borden's life, this alignment manifested into the murder of her stepmother, and it was carried out in a cold, hateful way, as if the chart itself actually scripted this whole dark, fated drama. Now, she has Neptune conjuncting Stabia, and Stabia is the asteroid that has to do with stabbings. And it's making this conjunction to Neptune at 0 degrees, the tightest orb, squared by Ixion, the murder asteroid. You can't make this up. Now, Neptune clouds boundaries, and when it touches Stabia, the asteroid of stabbings, it casts a surreal, secretive energy over acts of violence. It's as if her inner world blurs reality and fantasy in moments of extreme intensity. And that primes the stage for a dramatic, violent outcome. And especially since Neptune and Stabia trines her sun and Nessus, this adds even more sinister cheerleading for the diabolical energy. Now, Mars is the war planet, and it's conjuncting Hades, lord of the underworld. And this is all in the 4th house. And Mars is driven by the darker side of power. It's the lower octave of Pluto, lord of the underworld. So in the 4th house, the energy centers on the home, the family, and this means that any aggression or drive here because of Mars and Hades, it's ultimately going to affect it's going to affect, and it's tied to the family. And we have Hades conjuncting her Mars. So we're talking, like I said, it's the war planet coupled with dark underworld energy, and it's directed in the family dynamics. Now, Requiem, funeral for the dead, conjuncts her Jupiter. And Requiem, it rules death, mourning, and finality. And here, it blows up the theme of death and endings because it's conjunct her Jupiter. And like I said before, many times Jupiter magnifies the things that it touches. And so here there's this strong energy of a fated catastrophe and events that are associated with death. So it's like the chart itself is singing a dark funeral hymn over her life because Requiem has to do with funerals for the dead, like I said. Now, the fixed star Lesath conjuncts her IC, and that's at 2 degrees. And the IC is at the bottom of the chart on the cusp of the house that rules the home and the family. And that fixed star, that has to do with murder, stabbings, and poisons. So her home and the family roots are haunted by lethal potential, violence, and betrayal and hidden toxins. I don't know if she was ever accused of trying to poison anybody. That just came into my mind. I think I read that somewhere, but I'm not really sure. So there's this danger here that lurks in every corner of that family dynamic, waiting to come out in the open because of Lesath. It's a deadly cocktail of stabbings, poison, and murderous impulses baked right into her foundation. Mars is conjuncting Hades in the 4th, and Lesath is right on the cusp of the IC, adding a toxic push to all of this sinister energy. Now, she has Pholus conjuncting her north node, and it's at 3.5 degrees. Now, that's on the loose side, but I'm including it because the rest of the chart coincides with the energy. Pholus here has to do with sudden explosive energy. It's like she was a bull in a china shop, and that was one of the themes in her life, or the basic theme. So her energy here, she went careening through her life with this dangerous energy and explosive tangents that suddenly just blew way out of proportion due to the aspects that Jupiter is making to her other planets. So now I'm going to be getting into the Synastry chart with her father and parts of the Synastry that I think are most important. And I'm going to go over some transits as well on the day that she murdered her parents. So between her and her father, her Hass, the German word for hate, and Lachesis conjuncts her father's south node. And her moon conjuncts his south node at 5 degrees. So this is a dark karmic link because she ignites deep reckonings and simmering hate and hostility through Hass and the inevitable fated ending through Lachesis. And this is all conjuncting her father's south node. So her father is pulled into patterns both familiar and perilous at the same time, and drawn towards what feels destined. But it carries this shadowed, inescapable weight of all of those energies conjuncting the South Node. So it's karmic, but he feels familiar with this energy. So maybe he never expected her to carry out the sinister act, but she did. But there's more validation here. Her blow conjuncts his sun. And this means aggression and a strong possibility of violence. And this is very telling because the sun is who you are. It's your essence in your natal chart. So this is almost a guarantee of violence and also hate because her Haas is conjuncting his south node and her moon. So this is all starting to come together. To me, this is obvious that she murdered her parents. I'm going to be going over some transits here. On the day that she axed her father and her stepmother, Jupiter was transiting her 8th house, and the 8th house has to do with death. But Jupiter here expands the energy and the intensity of that house. So it's an amplification of death, power, and hidden forces. So the planets in deadly alignment here, Jupiter is squaring her Sun, her Venus, and her Mars. Her identity, her passions, her drive, all magnified to explosive extremes. And her personal planets were under intense friction and tension, and Jupiter magnified all of this. So that tension, it didn't stay bottled. It exploded. It exploded outward. It inflated. It was under pressure. So it was like an explosion from a pressure cooker, and it was destructive, and there was extreme actions, and in this case, murder, due to the 8th house and the transiting north node that made a conjunction to her natal Pluto in the 8th house. So the north node here is steering the fate towards Pluto, towards the dark, transformative acts that would forever stain history. And it was igniting this perfect storm of obsession, impulse, and inescapable violence. This whole chart is just filled with haunting, diabolical, toxic energy that it came right into fruition. And the planets, the asteroids, they always play out. The chart is not, the natal charts, synastry charts, they're not just glyphs, they're not just aspects. There's a story behind every single chart, and it's like a fingerprint. Each one is different. Now, if you need a synastry chart done, or a natal chart, or even a transit chart, I'm available, and my information is in the description box. So that's all I have today. So stay in the loop. Press subscribe, share, and like.